Peterson, Saturdays at 7 on Channel 9.
This is the CBS Evening News. Susan Spencer sitting in tonight for Bob Schieffer. Good evening. The freak explosion that ripped open the fuselage of an Aloha Airlines 737 jet today prompted the government to restrict all older 737s to low altitudes until every one of them can be inspected. As Jerry Bowen reports, the emergency order came, although the investigation into the accident has just begun.
NTSB inspectors spent their first full day examining the wreckage of Aloha Airlines Flight 243, and the focus and industry-wide concern now is on structural weaknesses in the 100 and 200 series of the 737 jet.
They'll look at the possibility of fatigue, metal fatigue, or failure.
The FAA today issued an emergency order banning older model 737 jets with more than 55,000 landings from flying above 23,000 feet, the altitude where cabin pressurization might explode the fuselage. The Aloha jet was at 24,000 feet when the forward cabin ceiling peeled away. As an inter-island carrier, the plane is estimated to have had 85,000 cycles. Takeoffs and landings that required pressurization that could have strained the metal fuselage.
I can call that a high cycle number with some degree of assurance.
In addition, the FAA order requires an inspection of the jets, a directive that affects 66 planes at Aloha, American, and Piedmont Airlines out of an estimated 1,000 of the planes in service nationwide.
Naturally, having been alerted by this particular incident in Hawaii, we want to make sure that we're not vulnerable to any other failures in the fleet.
The FAA directive is the latest in a series of inspections ordered for the early model 737s, like the crippled Aloha Airlines jet. Aloha Airlines officials say this plane had undergone the required inspections, but company officials won't say what, if any, problems were found. Yesterday, with advance notice of the directive, Aloha grounded 3 other 737s, a third of its fleet, and the FAA is now reviewing the company's maintenance records. Meanwhile, survivors of the incident still marvel at the skill of the cockpit crew.
And they were very calm. And I think just looking at them, I felt very comfortable.
Also today, investigators began interviewing the flight crew to find out how they did it and what they think went wrong in the first place. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Kahului, Hawaii.
Wednesday night is the deadline for illegal immigrants seeking amnesty and the possibility of citizenship. And in Houston, as in many cities around the country, offices stayed open this weekend to handle the crowds. Still, people had to stand in long, long lines. 20,000 immigrants are expected to apply each day until the deadline, Wednesday at midnight. But even if that many do come each day, many illegal immigrants have made a conscious decision not to participate in the amnesty program. Victoria Corderi explained.
So help you God.
The dream of citizenship promised by the landmark immigration law was supposed to lure millions of illegal aliens out of the shadows. But despite the late rush to apply as the deadline nears, it is clear that many illegals prefer to remain underground rather than risk the uncertainty of this controversial program.
It's the mental attitude that they've acquired for as long as they've been here. You do not realize the fear that these people have of immigration.
The multi-million-dollar amnesty program has faced a barrage of criticism from the start. At least 3 million illegal aliens were expected to apply, but so far only about 1 million have come forward. The attitude seems to be, when in doubt, don't. Even some of those who have applied are having second thoughts. People like Eugenio, one of 64,000 applicants in Florida seeking residency under the farm worker provisions of the law. Eugenio qualifies. His wife and son do not. Now there's no turning back.
It's difficult because all the time I am thinking of the problems.
The problems are bogging down agencies that try to help illegals. Critics say the application process is too expensive and that there are unrealistic requirements for documentation to prove eligibility.
There's a wide variety of faults with this whole amnesty program, which is not an amnesty program at all.
The Immigration and Naturalization Service says it's done the best it can.
This is really one of the most effective programs that I've ever been involved in.
There are more than 6 million illegals in this country. For many, there is just one dream: citizenship. The irony, as the May 4th deadline nears, is that the program that was supposed to open the door to so many has ended up shutting out millions. Victoria Corderi, CBS News, Miami.
So far, so good for a new California condor chick hatched late yesterday. Today, it ate its first meal, carefully watched. As Terry Drinkwater reports, the chick's been showered with attention from the start for a very good reason.
Birth is always a moment of wonder, but this was extraordinary. Never before had a condor been conceived in captivity and successfully hatched.
That one bird is a very big step, it seems, away from extinction.
A team of veterinarians assisted in the final critical hours.
You can see her testing the response of the chick by touching it on the beak, movement of the tongue.
Periodically back to the incubator to let the chick peck by itself.
The shell was peeled off in several steps, essentially. The process cannot be hustled along.
Saline solution to lubricate.
We started checking this egg. The membrane seemed to be drying out pretty rapidly. Rather than allowing it to simply exhaust itself by going the whole 72 hours, we stepped in a little early to assist.
The Band-Aid is to cover the tiny opening where the nutrients from the yolk were absorbed.
You have to understand that artificial incubation does not claim to be a replacement for mama. She's been doing this for millions of years, and she's darn good at it.
And then, finally, 61.5 hours after the first crack appeared.
This is the moment, and now he's completely free of the shell.
And quickly into an incubator. Congratulations all around. The world population of condors has grown by 1. There are now 28, all in captivity. The chick's weight, 6 3/4 ounces. The successful birth means that those who have worked so hard to save the condor from extinction can begin introducing them back here into the wild as early as 1992. Their keeper says he cannot wait until they can once again fly free.
Stable flight. It's as stable as an airplane, and you just see them go overhead and from one horizon to the other, and they disappear, and you're just in awe. It makes you feel small.
Meanwhile, tonight the chick is being fed chopped mice. In just 6 months, its wingspan will have grown to 10 feet, and this condor, like all its prehistoric ancestors, will begin to fly. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, San Diego.
Coming up next on tonight's CBS Evening News, Poland. On the eve of a labor holiday, there is no holiday from labor unrest. And later, Baltimore celebrating a sweet victory in a season gone sour.
This is the all-new Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, and this is the new Cutlass Supreme game going on right now. Game brochures are at your Oldsmobile dealer or participating McDonald's. Understand so far? Good. Play the Cutlass Supreme game. You could win an all-new Cutlass Supreme SL or $1,000 in cash. And you'll get a coupon for cash back on a new Cutlass Supreme. Game pieces are at your Olds dealer. You should go there. Any question? Good.
Troubled by bad breath? Then have a Milk-Bone dog biscuit to help scrape away plaque and food particles to give you cleaner teeth, fresher breath. Get Milk-Bone because, naturally, every dog wants fresher breath.
See the colors of Puerto Rico, colors everywhere. Puerto Rico, the shining star.
A confrontation is looming in Poland, where thousands of workers remain on strike at the country's biggest industrial plant. The government warned tonight it would no longer negotiate. Bert Quint has the latest.
16,000 strikers at the Lennon steel mill continue to ignore threats of police action today. It was the 5th day of the most serious confrontation the regime has had with workers for 6 years. Half the workforce has remained on the job, but the partial shutdown already has cost the country $7.5 million. Some strikers consider the stoppage a matter of survival. They say they need a 50% wage increase to offset recent price hikes imposed as Poland begins to reform its bankrupt socialist economy.
A man who can't provide for his family is nothing.
For others, it goes back to the old dream of free labor unions that was crushed by martial law. Just how serious the regime considers this threat became obvious tonight when key party and government leaders failed to attend ceremonies marking May Day Eve, apparently too busy trying to control Poland's workers to take time to praise them. The regime combined threats of force and a granting of pay raises to end several smaller strikes, including one today at an armaments plant. But giving in here would encourage other strikes. Lech Wałęsa, the old Solidarity leader, has told aides to organize nationwide walkouts if authorities use force at the steel mill. To preempt any widespread action, police have arrested 40 Solidarity leaders. But no organization may be needed to keep Poland's pot boiling.
The strike movement is spontaneous. This is its great weakness.
It's the great danger, too. The drastic price increases have brought so much desperation and anger that people are reaching the point where they won't listen to voices of reason within the regime or outside of it. Bert Quint, CBS News, Warsaw.
A Soviet cartoon published today shows opponents of Mikhail Gorbachev praying "come back" to a statue of dictator Joseph Stalin. It's a new brand of journalism, and it has people racing to their newsstands, as we hear from Barry Peterson.
It is the Saturday sign of Glasnost, the lines that form at dawn for newspapers and magazines that hit the stands today. By 8 a.m., he says, they will already be sold out. And this has been a red-letter week for the press, even in this time of more freedom. Example, a major Soviet TV documentary on ethnic troubles between Christian Armenians and Muslims in the Nagorno-Karabakh region. It included videotapes that were smuggled to Western journalists weeks ago, but never before seen here. A surprise to dissident leader Sergei Grigoryants as he watched.
This is Glasnost. It's difficult to know if they are trying to fool us or if there is hope.
Also this week, in the English-language newspaper Moscow News, a harshly critical story on prison camps, once a forbidden subject. The staid newspaper of the Communist Party, Pravda, is facing the fact that Glasnost means the party line can no longer be a boring line. The paper's huge circulation of 10 million copies daily is slipping as its livelier competitors see their sales soaring. One example, the magazine Ogonyok. In the last year, its circulation has nearly doubled. To fight back, Pravda is going Madison Avenue, trying to appeal to its audience.
We have to work harder to produce better stories to compete with other publications. I mean, our newspaper, Pravda.
Vasiliev recently wrote, and his editors published, a story about an American farm. Not the usual criticism, but an explanation of what Soviets could learn from American ingenuity. Pravda means truth. But the truth is, Pravda, the party's official voice, runs the risk of being left behind in this new era brought about by the party itself. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Moscow.
At Raytheon Company, we believe that success comes from mastering the fundamentals. That's why we admire people like Larry Bird, people who are dedicated to perfecting the fundamentals, practicing them time and time again until they become flawless. So whether it's in electronics, aviation, appliances, or industry services, Raytheon works hard on the fundamentals. Because at Raytheon, we believe quality starts with fundamentals.
In Alamance County, North Carolina, Honda lawnmowers are assembled from the wheels up. Beginning with the Honda overhead valve engine, each precision part is fitted and assembled to exacting tolerances. Then, the final critical step that determines whether a machine will meet the Honda standard. The Clara Johnson test. If Clara pulls and it starts, it's a Honda.
Ship it. Take my test during the Clara Johnson Challenge at your Honda Power Equipment dealer.
Hey, sounded good. Save a few bucks, get the same quality. Then the gripes start from data processing. I got garbage all over the orders. Pittsburgh now takes all night to download delivery schedules.
AT&T gives you the fastest, most error-free data transmission.
I'm paying 32 truckers to drink coffee. This is a good deal?
AT&T's worldwide intelligent network. Because we know it's not just long distance. It's your business on the line. AT&T, the right choice.
The government's free cheese program ends today, 7 years after Washington decided to use surplus cheese to help feed the poor. The reason it's ending in part, no more surplus. But as Lynn Brown reports, the dairy farmers' good news is bad news for the hungry.
18-month-old Jason Oliveira is just one of many children who'll be affected by the end of the government's surplus cheese distribution. Although Jason's father works full-time, he doesn't make enough to support 4 children and 2 adults. But says Elena Oliveira, he makes too much to qualify for food stamps.
Well, I know that I'm going to suffer, and I know my kids are going to suffer because I can't afford the cheese and the milk sometimes. You know, I mean, it'll be a real loss.
And the Oliveiras are not alone. In the 7 years the program has been in existence, it has distributed 5 billion pounds of food to 15 million hungry Americans. But the Department of Agriculture says there will be no more free cheese because there's no more surplus.
Well, the Department of Agriculture seems to have blinders on when it comes to hunger in this country.
Senator Patrick Leahy is one of many on Capitol Hill outraged by the government's plan to end the cheese distribution. He'll introduce a bill next week requiring Washington to continue the program by purchasing cheese on the open market.
Thank you, dear. We're the wealthiest, most powerful nation in the world, and yet we have hunger that is beginning to rival some third world nations.
But the Agriculture Department argues there are better ways to help the hungry.
We ought to be sensitive to what low-income Americans need. The food stamp program gives them a lot of flexibility in what foods to buy to best meet their needs, while commodities do not.
But for Elena Oliveira, the surplus commodities met her needs exactly, and she can't understand why the government has to stop them.
Your child will say, "Can I have a piece of bread with butter?" Or "I want a glass of milk," and you don't have it. I'd like to see them tell their children that. That's what I'd like to see. And let them deal with the emotional strain just alone that you have to go through.
With no assistance, no food stamps, and now no cheese and powdered milk, working poor families like the Oliveiras could find it even more difficult to put protein on the table. That's one reason backers of the bill to extend the commodities program say they expect it will pass in both houses of Congress. Lynn Brown, CBS News, New York.
20 years ago this weekend saw the arrival in Washington of activists concerned about the poor, the first contingent of the historic Poor People's Campaign. In Atlanta today, a march commemorated that campaign, the last project launched by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. before his death. Its participants then camped out in the Capitol in the makeshift Resurrection City, demanding attention be paid to the plight of the poor. Resurrection City is long gone. The problems of the poor, of course, are not. Earlier today, I spoke with William Julius Wilson, a sociology professor at the University of Chicago, for his assessment of where we stand 20 years later.
Well, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is that the rate of joblessness in the inner city has sharply increased since then. And this has triggered other problems, such as the growth of female-headed households, increase in the receipt of welfare, increase in a number of families living in extreme poverty areas. That's areas with rates of poverty that exceed 40%, and the spread of extreme poverty areas.
That sounds like very bad news.
It is bad news, and it would have worried Martin Luther King, certainly, if he were alive today.
And the good news?
The good news is that there is an increasing number of blacks in managerial, professional, and technical positions, an increase in the number of black homeowners. There's been an increase in the number of black college graduates, although black college enrollment is down from what it was 6 years ago. It's still higher than it was at the time of the Poor People's Campaign. And the income of married couple families, young black married couple families, is approaching that of young white married couple families.
But despite that progress, we still have what appear to some to be intractable problems in the inner cities. What do you think ought to be done to change that?
I really don't think the problems are intractable. They're very entrenched, and they've gotten worse. But I think that the most important thing that we have to do is to create jobs. And I think we need to pay particular attention to the type of legislation that's before Congress, put there by people like Senator Paul Simon, calling for a guaranteed jobs program, emphasizing government WPA-type jobs. We can't wait for the creation of jobs in the private sector. We have to move now.
Do you expect that issue will emerge as a major issue in the fall campaign?
I think it will be an issue in the fall campaign, and I think that those of us who might be working, developing campaign issues, will try to make sure it is an issue. I know that I've talked to some of the presidential candidates, and they've at least recognized that this has to be done.
Professor Wilson, thank you very much.
Chance. Finding a faucet made as well as a price fister. After all, it's the one made in its own USA foundry. The one uniquely fashioned with a heart of solid brass. Start to finish, the quality is first rate. Furthermore, the cost is a fraction of what you'd expect. So why fiddle around? Get a price fister. The fabulous faucet with a funny name.
What's going on? It's the Monroe free ride sale. Buy 3 Monroe shocks or struts and get a 4th shock free.
Great! I'll give the old dinosaur a better ride.
See your Monroe ride expert soon.
You went to so much trouble.
Not really. It was easy. My Whirlpool microwave spreads the energy around so food cooks evenly. It even senses when a meal will be done and turns itself off.
Was that easy?
I did have to push the start button.
Whirlpool.
The 2 Democratic presidential contenders fired away at President Reagan today, and with ammunition provided by his own cabinet. Campaigning in Ohio, Michael Dukakis jumped on Health Secretary Otis Bowen's admission that the administration is losing the war against illegal drugs. So did Jesse Jackson.
By Mr. Bowen's own admission, the administration's war against drugs has failed in part because of lack of vision and lack of resources.
Jackson is putting a big chunk of his campaign resources into next week's contest in Ohio, trying to keep his candidacy alive. Gary Reeves reports.
Here we are, Ohio. Here we are. Here we are.
Jesse Jackson still has no problem stirring up the faithful. But with Dukakis expected to further extend his lead in Tuesday's primaries, Jackson desperately needs to reach new people in Ohio to prove he is still in the race.
We the people can win!
Despite his own campaign manager admitting this week that the chances of winning are slim, Jackson is spending $400,000 on ads in Ohio, 4 times as much as Dukakis.
George Bush says stay the course. Michael Dukakis says manage the damage.
By attacking Dukakis, Jackson hopes to set himself up as a liberal alternative. But at times, he sounds as though he's already lost the race and is campaigning to push the party to the left.
My challenge remains that of leading the Democratic Party to be in stark contrast to the Republicans.
Jackson says to grow as a party, the Democrats must attract the young and the alienated by being more liberal. He believes pushing the party to the left will help it win in November. At this point, Jackson shows no signs of quitting.
I don't feel no ways tired. We're going on and on and on and on.
I certainly believe that when you have worked as hard as you have to work to run a campaign like the one that Jackson is running, that you don't want to just walk away from it and say goodbye forever.
Reverend Jackson has already pulled off a miracle in getting this far. Why should we not expect that there might be a miracle or 2 left before the Atlanta convention?
It may take a miracle for Jackson to win here, but the candidate pushes on, confident that win or lose, he's assured a place of importance in the party's future. Gary Reeves, CBS News, Columbus, Ohio.
You know, I'm not easily annoyed, but I never liked the way the vegetables always fell off between the sirloin on my beef kebabs. I fixed that. I don't put vegetables on my beef kebabs. In fact, I believe that's why someone invented salad.
Beef, real food for real people.
As soon as you get out there, call Mike Butler at the Century 21 office.
Well, he already called me, Dad.
Check the utility bills.
I will, Dad.
You know, the right mortgage.
Isn't this guy Butler a friend of yours?
Yeah, sure.
Well, if he's half the guy you are, I bet I can trust him.
Take care of yourself.
mother.
Century 21.
Thanks, children. I'm the luckiest mother in the whole world.
Hi, Molly.
Uncle Merlin.
Is this a tea party?
Mm-hmm. For Mother's Day. And look what I got.
Oh, an FTD preserve jar bouquet.
Of course, I deserve it. I'm a good mother.
Oh, your children must really love you to give you such pretty flowers.
And this gender and spoon.
Perfect for a tea party.
Molly, have you seen my Mother's Day bouquet?
The preserve jar bouquet.
The streets of Selins Grove, Pennsylvania were deserted today. And here is the dessert, a record-sized banana split 4.5 miles long with 24,000 bananas and 2,500 gallons of ice cream. It was a fundraising stunt, $2 for a share of 13 million calories. Well, the Baltimore Orioles experienced a rare treat of their own last night, and as Terry Smith reports, it too had the sweet taste of victory.
Will be going on the threshold of history, just 2 games shy of the longest losing streak ever. The Orioles blew it last night by winning.
Ground ball, this should be it. Stanisic makes sure he's got it. And ladies and gentlemen, at 21, the streak is history. Orioles 9, White Sox nothing.
With that, the O's went from being champion losers to merely bad. From the Baltimore woes to the cellar-dwelling O's. A tidy 15.5 games out of first place. After the game, there was celebration and hope that the worst of the finger-pointing is behind them.
It's no fun being followed around and pointed at and laughed at. You taste victory and you want it again. We've tasted it tonight. It's been a while since we've tasted the fruits of victory.
Manager Frank Robinson, ever the gentleman, was philosophical.
We didn't think it was going to take 21 losses before it happened, but it did, and we feel good about it.
Baltimore knows how to win as well as lose. Just 5 years ago, they were the world champions. In Baltimore today, the fans were coming to grips with their new mediocrity.
They should have gone for the world record, but, you know, at least they won 9-0.
We've gained the national attention by being losers. Does the country need a loser? We gave it to them for a little while.
The happiest fan in Baltimore may have been disc jockey Bob Rivers, who kept his pledge to stay at the microphone until the O's won. After 258 continuous hours on the air, as Rivers headed home for the first time in 10 days, Baltimore raised a glass, as much to forget the pain as to celebrate the victory. Terrence Smith, CBS News, Baltimore.
Go O's. That's the CBS Evening News. Coming up tonight on West 57th, a mystery. John Ferrugia will report on a man's unending search for his missing wife. I'm Susan Spencer, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
Nothing should come between you and your pet, except the Hearts 2-in-1 collar. The collar that kills fleas and ticks for 5 months. Keeps them off your pet and out of your home. Go ahead. Hug. Snuggle. Tickle him. The Hearts 2-in-1 collar lets you get close to your pet without getting close to fleas and ticks. If you want to hug a happier pet and have peace of mind, get the Hearts 2-in-1 collar.
Another day is turned to night. Close your eyes, say goodnight.
Sominex 2 has a sleep ingredient doctors recommend to help you fall asleep safely without worry. Sominex 2.
Good night.
When you buy Corning prescription lenses that change, it's like getting free light tints, free medium tints, dark tints, and a range of free sunglasses all in one. Corning lenses that change, the only eyeglasses you'll ever need.